Hello, my name's John. These are some of my brushes, and you're watching War Games Models and Other Hobbies. Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be quickly running through something that I very rarely do but should do more often, and that is cleaning and reconditioning my brushes. I don't treat my brushes that well and they end up looking quite terrible. So I decided, rather than just buying a fresh set of brushes and increasing the pile of old unusable brushes, I'm going to treat my brushes to a little bit of a clean and see if I can recondition them. I'm not expecting miracles with these, but I'm expecting them to last a little bit longer when I start cleaning them. I've got 4 brushes here that I'm going to work on in this video. I've already done some brushes and the result did impress me. They're not the best kind of finish. They do have slightly curled tips and things like that, but they look a lot better than they were. I haven't painted with them yet, but I'll see how they turn out once I've cleaned a few more. So the brushes that I'm going to clean in this video, I've got a broken toed brush, which I really love the broken toed brushes, and some Citadel brushes. You'll see from the broken toed one, let me zoom on in, that it's lost its point and it's splayed out quite a bit. And then I have a dry brush that has got some pigment stuck in the bristles. And then 2 base brushes which have gone rock solid. So the first thing that I want to do is clean out the paint. The broken toed doesn't have, well, it doesn't look like it has any paint in there, but I'm going to treat them all the same. So what I have is a cloth. Let me zoom out again so we can see a little bit more. There we go. So I've got a cloth. I've bought myself some brush soap, and I also have some isopropyl alcohol, some IPA, and some water. So start with the broken toe brush, and what I'm going to do is just gently wash it round in the IPA, clean that off, wash it with the water, and then add a bit of the brush soap and see how it turns out. So the IPA itself, this helps loosen up any of the acrylic paints in there and kind of makes them kind of a little bit more soluble so you can wipe them off and everything. So I'm just going to wipe this on here, and you'll see some dirt picking up off the edge of the brush, and as I'm wiping it I'm turning it slightly. And now I've wiped that off, just gonna rinse it round in some water, just leave it in there for a second, and then my brush soap, and then gonna brush on top of that. So it starts to lather up a little bit, and you have the option of rinsing this off straight away or leaving it on to recondition the bristles, the hairs of the brush a lot more. What I'm going to do is rinse that off a little bit, wipe it on the cloth, see how that's already given me a really nice point to that brush. Now the key thing, if I run my finger through it and see if it holds it, it doesn't hold it as well as I'd like it to, but it still does have the point to it. So what I'm going to do with this one is then brush it in the soap a bit more, and then I'm going to leave that with the soap on the bristles just to kind of condition them and see if it improves them. So next one I'm going to go for is my dry brush with the pigment kind of stained into those bristles. I'm going to start with the IPA on this one and rinse it round for a little bit. And then I'm going to just rub this off. It's still got a lot of the pigment on it, that's okay. I've got a feeling that the brush soap's going to do a little bit more than just the IPA alone, but that IPA is going to help loosen up that paint somewhat. So let's get that brush now wet, and I'm going to rub that into the soap. And what I can see, I don't know if it's coming out on the camera as much, or a little bit, the soap is lathering up and it's actually getting a little bit dirty. So I'm not actually going to rinse that off, I'm just going to wipe the soap onto my cloth. I'm not sure if this is the best cloth to use, but it doesn't seem to be leaching any blue pigment off it, so I'm not worried too much. I could use paper towel or sponge or something, but this is the cloth I had to hand. So let's rinse that off a bit. Okay, so it's still got some of that pigment in the ends of the bristles. I'm going to repeat the process. So start with the IPA. Rinse that in the water. And then use the brush soap. A little bit of fluff. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just rub the brush soap off a little bit, but I'm going to leave a bit on the brush to help condition it. Let's pull that hair out. So looking at that, it's still got a bit of a green tint to it from the pigments from the paint, but I'm going to leave that with the brush soap in to recondition it. Might come back to it to see if I can clean any more off later on after the soap has kind of penetrated a bit. But the next thing I want to look at, both these brushes have the same problem of being really kind of stiff now. This one has kind of blown out the sides and that one's got a split in it. But I'm going to treat these the same way. So I'm going to start with the IPA in case that's a big block of paint in there, and then go to the water and then the soap. So just with the IPA, that's really loosened those bristles up. So I'm now going to soak it in the water and get a bit of brush soap in there. And you can see that's actually dirtied up the soap quite a lot. So there must have been paint in the base of those bristles. But already that one's looking a lot better. Obviously it's still a bit wet, so it looks nice and shiny, but does feel quite nice. So I'm going to put some soap on there, wipe off the excess. I'm just going to leave that one for now to let that soak through. And then the final one, which has also lost some of its shape, exactly the same process. So go with the IPA. Clean that off. And then some water. Now I've got quite a selection of brushes that I want to see if I can recondition. Some of them are pretty worse for wear, and I don't think I'm going to get much out of them. But if I can reshape them a little bit, it will prolong their life. Cleaning brushes is something I want to get into the habit of doing after I've used them, rather than just chuck them in the water, rinse off a bit of paint. Is actually go through the process every so often of just cleaning them out properly, recondition the bristles to make them last a bit longer. So this one is foamed up quite nicely. You can see the colour of the lathered up soap. I'm actually going to wipe that off the bar. Let's rinse that again. So this is going to be one that will definitely need to leave the soap on it to recondition the bristles, so they can kind of get back into shape and I can reform them slightly. So I'm going to leave quite a bit of lathered up soap on there. So I'm going to leave it with that soap on there. As it loosens up those bristles, I'll be able to form them back into place. So that one still needs a bit of work. I'll put it to one side. But looking at the other three, so that broken toed one has now got a nice point on it. Hopefully it'll stay when I start painting with it, but we'll have a look later on. Then that large base brush is now got a real nice flex to it. And it's looking really nice, that one. And then the dry brush, still a little bit of pigment in. Not sure if it's improved that at all, but I might do it again just to see what it looks like. But yeah, that's about it. That's the process that I've started to use to clean my brushes. I kind of, like I said, want to do this a little bit more often to make sure I can get my brushes into a nice condition. I will try and reform this one, and if I manage it, I'll put a photo of it at the end of the video. But for now, yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for tuning in. My name's John, and you've been watching War Games Models and Other Hobbies.